Dynamic addresses are usually fine for desktops and laptops, but servers tend to need predefined, unchanging static IP addresses. This is often handled by setting up a reservation by MAC address on the router, but sometimes it's handled directly on the machine instead. Let's set up a static IP address using the GUI tool first, and then the command line. I'll start up the graphical tool from the terminal with nm connection editor. I'll choose the connection I want to edit and click Edit. Over here under IPv4, I'll change the method from automatic to manual, and I'll press Add to add a new address. I have the whole 10.0.2 range to play with here on my virtual network, so let's use 10.0.2.7. You'll want to make sure you put a valid address in for your network if you have a different setup. I'll tab to netmask over here, and I can either put in a CIDR notation like it's done here, although I would want 24, or a full address like 255.255.255.0, and then I'll put in a gateway, in my case 10.0.2.1. And down here I'll add a DNS server, which could be a router or a different machine or a third-party server. I'll use my virtual default gateway, 10.0.2.1. We need to add this here because we're not getting one given to us for free with DHCP when we set up a static address. I'll save, and then I'll close this. Most of the time you can ignore these warnings that you see. It's saying that we have invalid settings because it was evaluating the IP address before I was done typing it. So it's right, but it's not a warning that's really helpful to us. So let's take a look and see if those changes have taken effect. I'll write nm CLI con show my Ethernet. And if I scroll up here to IPv4, I can see that, well, I still have my previous address. That's because we need to take down and start the connection back up. I'll write nm CLI con down my Ethernet, and then nm CLI con up my Ethernet to bring it back up. Now when I take a look, nm CLI con show my Ethernet, I can see that I've got the address that I specified. And to test everything's working, I can type ping google.com, and I can see I'm getting packets through. Great, everything's working the way that I intended. Let's take a look at setting this up from the command line and giving our connection a different IP address. We want to edit the connection, so I'll type nm CLI con edit my Ethernet. And again, we're interested in the IPv4 settings here. I want to get rid of the addresses that are there already, so I'll write remove IPv4.addresses. And then to set a new one, I'll write set IPv4.addresses, and let's use 10.0.2.8.24. It's asking if I want to set the method to manual, which, yes, I do. And if I were configuring my gateway and my DNS here, I'd need to specify that as well. So I'd write set IPv4.gateway 10.0.2.1 set IPv4.dns 10.0.2.1 as well. Great. I'll type save, and I'll type quit, and then I'll cycle my connection. I'll check out my settings with nm CLI con show my Ethernet, and I can see now I have the new IP address that I specified. We can also set all of this information at once from the command line, again, which is useful for remote deployments or scripts. Before we start, we need all of our information. I'll use the IP 10.0.2.9, the gateway 10.0.2.1, and the DNS server 10.0.2.1. So having all of this in mind, or maybe on a sticky note, I'll write nm CLI con mod to modify the connection, my Ethernet, IPv4.addresses 10.0.2.9, IPv4.gateway 10.0.2.1, and IPv4.dns 10.0.2.1 as well. And then I'll take the connection down and bring it back up. nm CLI con down my Ethernet, and nm CLI con up my Ethernet. And let's use the IP tool this time, which is short for IP address. And we can see that the IP address has changed to what we specified.